There's a lot going on at Saqqara, and there's a lot going on at the Djoser complex. In the 1920s, Cecil Mallaby Firth and James Quibble were the first to start formal excavations. They were then joined, and it was continued by Jean-Philippe Lauer. One current explanation is that the pharaoh wanted a bigger and bigger and bigger structure until he finally got a huge pyramid. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. As you can see, there is a pyramid inside the pyramid. Most people don't know that. The two main structures of the complex are the pyramid and the wall. We won't be looking at the wall today, we'll just be looking at the pyramid and a few other features. The Djoser Pyramid was the first pyramid to be built. Technically, it's a step pyramid. It is the fifth largest pyramid in Egypt. If you see a small red square, that means that is the northeastern side of the pyramid. Djoser did something new. He built a square mastaba. Usually they are rectangular or were rectangular. Then he put a ring around it. That is stage 2. Stage 3 is a long, thin rectangle that went over the top of the eastern shafts. We'll be looking at those shortly. Stage 4 was a covering, then the first pyramid was built. That's the first pyramid, P1. Then he built a mastaba around it and built it up to P2, which is the pyramid we can see today. The pyramid and the complex are built on top of an already ancient site that was full of tunnels and galleries. And the galleries and shafts are much older than the pyramid itself. The next feature we'll be looking at is the main shaft. It is not at the centre of the pyramid, it is offset. At the bottom of the shaft is the sarcophagus of Djoser. Currently, tourists can enter the southern entry through the southern entrance and look down upon the sarcophagus. George has taken a couple of snaps, holiday snaps. Now he's headed back to the bus, but I think he's going to be late. He's got quite a way to go. At the base of the shaft are 4 entrances to galleries, lower galleries. That blue one there is the one we'll be looking at soon. On the northern side is the original entry to the shaft, and there's also the northern entrance to the galleries, which is a small ramp. You can see there now. I'll remove all the tunnels except for the lower galleries, so it is simpler to see. That blue arrow is the entrance to the galleries that have the blue faience tiles, extraordinary tiles. And there the eastern shafts can be seen to go under the lower galleries. There's one entrance to the Djoser complex. When you enter, there's a colonnade, which surprisingly is not at 90 degrees to the wall. It veers slightly to the left. These are not freestanding columns, they are connected to the back walls. At the southern end of the complex is another shaft called the Southern Tomb. It's similar to the main shaft, except now it's open to the air. At the bottom of this shaft there is another sarcophagus. It also has many galleries at various heights. At the base towards the east, the galleries also have the blue faience tiles. And just like there are 3 Djoser reliefs underneath the pyramid, there are 3 Djoser reliefs here as well. We're going to have a look here at the oldest buildings in the world and the one that everyone knows, Göbekli Tepe. Some of the largest pillars here are over 6 meters tall and weigh over 30 tons. We're still not sure why they built them. Thousands of years later, the world's largest building would be built at Saqqara. Why a rectangle of this size? Now it's hard not to notice that around 3000 BC, building really took off all over the place. This is one of my favourite sites, Noath in Ireland. Very beautiful. And that's Newgrange in the background. Even in Peru on the other side of the world, around 3000 BC, people started building large structures. In fact, the largest structure in the Americas is Section Alto, far larger than the Great Pyramid. One site that I want to have a look at, that I want to show you, is in Brittany, in France. Many will know of the famous rows of megaliths at Karnak. 133 kilometers northeast is a building called Barnenez. Barnenez is one of the oldest buildings in the world and was constructed 2,000 years before the Djoser Pyramid. Barnenez was built in 2 sections. The first section had 5 passages and the second section had 6 passages. Now I'm going to scale the drawing and plan and compare it with the eastern shafts of the Djoser Pyramid. And as you can see, the end shafts match quite nicely. John Lauer gave us some good drawings with some measurements, so we can take some fairly reasonable measurements of the shafts. On the outside, 54.5 meters, and on the inside, 50.2. Now I'm measuring from the center of the shaft to the center of the other shaft, and some of you may recognize those numbers. South of Saqqara is one of the earliest structures, a mastaba, that is attributed to Neith-Hotep. Let's have a look at who Neith-Hotep was. Neith-Hotep, queen of the first dynasty, named after Neith, who was the goddess of war and hunting. She was the wife of King Nama, the pharaoh who united Egypt. One other thing that I want to point out is that the Egyptians worked with a base 10 number system. John Lauer and others noted similarity between the mastaba of Neith-Hotep and the Djoser complex. The pyramid's dimensions are very interesting. I want you to remember that number, 121. North of Abydos at Biet Khalaf are 2 very big mud brick mastabas associated with and possibly belonging to Djoser and his brother Sanak. K1 is 85 meters long and 45 meters wide. That's a false door that George is entering. It's entered from above. I just wanted to show you how large and how complex this mastaba is. Not as large as K1, K2 is still very impressive. I'll come back to look at mastabas in future videos. Saqqara had a mud brick mastaba field that includes 3rd, 2nd and 1st dynasty mastabas of various sizes. But for some reason Djoser decided to build in stone. Djoser decided to build not just 1 but 2 pyramids. After Djoser, 10 pyramids were built or attempted to be built, the most famous being the Great Pyramid of Khufu at Giza. And also at Giza is the third pyramid, the Pyramid of Menkaure. The 11th structure for some reason was not a pyramid, it was a rectangular mastaba. And halfway between the Djoser Pyramid and the Red Pyramid is where you'll find the mastaba of Shepseska. This time it was not built of mud bricks, small mud bricks, it was built out of large stone blocks. After the mastaba of Shepseska, they went back to building pyramids. Djoser's original name was Net-Jeriket, and he was the first pharaoh of the third dynasty. But before him was Kasekemwe, who also constructed enormous buildings, and we'll have a look at some of these structures now. At Abydos, he added to el-Kab, the sacred First Dynasty cemetery, a very large, long tomb. Also at Abydos is Shunet el-Zabib, a structure made of mud bricks. And we'll compare it now to the Pyramid of Djoser. As mentioned before, the Djoser complex is built on top of a much older, much more ancient site, and it's believed that some of the galleries there may have been built by Kasekemwe as well. Much of these galleries are collapsed and not fully surveyed. They're dangerous to go into, and we don't know much about them. Other structures that could have been built by Kasekemwe also include Djiza el-Mudir. Now we'll go to Giza, the Pyramid of Khufu, Khafre and Menkaure. There's a model with an overhead view. Now we'll do a comparison of the Khufu Pyramid with the Djoser Pyramid. P1 matches up nicely with the King's Chamber of Khufu and the subterranean chamber of Khufu. Also, when we add P2, the well shaft grotto matches nicely as well. Note that red line. When people tell you that Khufu kept changing his mind and that's why there's different chambers in the Khufu pyramid, you can tell them, well, that's just not the case. There's John Edgar looking into the horizontal entry, and there's the red line. This is just a small sample of some analysis that I have done and I will present in future videos. So please subscribe and like if you want to see more. I'll be making a series of videos covering everything up to here. I just want people to see where I will be going in the future. Now a task for you to do is to work out the dimensions of that grey square and what it could mean. One of the side lengths of the Djoser Pyramid is 109, and 109 is a very special number. We do know that the Egyptians were interested in astronomy. There's two types of eclipses. There's the annular eclipse, which does not cover the sun, and there's the total eclipse, which does cover the sun. And this occurs because the distance between the Earth and the Moon varies. At the perigee, it's close to the Earth, or closest to the Earth, and at the apogee, it's furthest away. Now there's the Moon next to the Earth to get a size comparison. And there's the distance between the Earth and the Moon to scale. 14 moon diameters between the perigee and apogee. Now it happens in more than one case, but 109 is the number of Earth diameters compared to the Sun. There's a photo taken from the same position at different times, which shows the perigee and apogee, and there's the Djoser Pyramid rectangle. it's more than 97% accurate. In the ancient Greek alphabet, lambda was the 11th letter. The letter L in Latin used to be the 11th letter until the 1500s, when the letter J was introduced. A major temple was built, dedicated to Neith, in northern Egypt at Sais, around 600 BC. The 7 sages of Greece took and preserved some of the ancient Egyptian wisdom. My interpretation of the Delphic maxim, know thyself, is: don't just believe this or that opinion, but find the truth of the matter for yourself. There were 3 sacred cities in Greece: Delphi, Olympia, and Athens. And the patron god of Athens was Athena. In the book by Plato, the Timaeus and Critias, Critias mentions Neith and Athena are one in the same god. He also mentions Atlantis and triangles. Delphi, the sacred city, whose patron god was Apollo. The third city is Olympia, the home of the Olympic Games, whose patron god was Zeus. Earlier in this video, I asked you to remember one number. The distance from Delphi to Athens is 121 kilometers. The distance from Delphi to Olympia is 121 kilometers. From Olympia to Athens, 188. Three points, not on a straight line, form a circle. The circle has a center. In this case, it is Argos, the oldest city in Europe and home of Jason and the Argonauts. If we draw lines through the center, we end up with this symbol, which might remind you of a wonderful film from 1994 called Stargate. And there is a wonderful scene where the young Egyptologist draws on the whiteboard and joins the 7th symbol. Constantine the Great, the Roman emperor who adopted Christianity, had a similar symbol. It's called the Chiron. In the 12th dynasty, Amenemhet I returned to the pyramid field and built his pyramid at Lisht. Let there be Lisht. Those 2 rows of squares are vertical shafts. Now these are accurate scale drawings. Please remember P2 is the pyramid we can see and P1 is the small pyramid inside. Inside that line are the eastern shafts of the Djoser Pyramid. Now we'll compare the shafts of Amenemhet with P1. They match quite nicely. If only the vertical shafts matched up with the eastern shafts of the Djoser Pyramid. That would be something. If you know Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, you'll know that Alice shrunk. And I'm going to shrink the M&M head complex so that the outer wall matches P2. And then we'll compare shafts 1 to 1. And indeed, they match now. Okay, we have 2 data points matching. Now I'm going to move the pyramid around and see if we can find another one. Is there anything else that matches? Yes. The inner wall matches P1. This is an example of the preservation of ratios. Ratio is a Latin word and a synonym of the Greek word logos. In the beginning was the Logos. The triangle we know is with the sides of the Djoser Pyramid and the base of the bent pyramid. There it is there. The other triangles are with the base of the Red Pyramid and the base of the Khufu Pyramid. Egypt was in decline. First the Greeks and then the Romans preserved some of the ancient knowledge which was lost or hidden for thousands of years. Until the 19th century, when first Napoleon with a team of thousands and then other Europeans surveyed the ruins and archaeology began. The Djoser Pyramid was the first pyramid to be built and is the 5th largest pyramid in Egypt. What made Djoser build over the eastern shafts, and why a rectangle of this size? I have no problem with people saying the pyramids are tombs, but could they be more than just tombs? Even after thousands of years, the large structures remain, despite the passage of time and the decline of Egypt. Eventually I will show you why the Sphinx, in my opinion, is not the representation of Khafre but of Djoser. There is much more I want to show you to prove that the pyramids are not just tombs. But first we need to gather all the data to know what we are talking about before we can come to conclusions. We need to learn the alphabet before we can learn to read. 100 years ago and before, there was an archaeology race, just like the space race.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
There are 6 major pyramids at Saqqara. The Pyramid of Unas was the first pyramid to have the pyramid texts. In the next video, we'll be looking at the second pyramid that was built, the Pyramid of Sekhemkhet. Thank you for watching.